All attorneys strive for success in their law firms and want more responsibility, complex work, and greater recognition. However, there's a price to pay for accomplishing your goals. The stress of law firm life may cause many health problems, including premature aging or even early death. In this video, I'm going to explain several ways the well-being of attorneys suffers from the constant demands of law firm life. These are the top 10 ways that working as an attorney in a law firm ages and actually can kill you prematurely. If you think of any questions while watching this video and you want to ask me confidentially, click the link that says Ask Harrison a Question. And before we get started, remember to submit your resume at bcgsearch.com if you'd like me to review it and give you personalized feedback. You'll also be added to our database of active job seekers in the legal field. Now, I've been a legal recruiter for over 20 years, and about once a year, I follow up with candidates I've placed. I met many of these candidates when they're mid-20s and quite younger, and when I go to follow up, I often cannot find their law firm bios. In a Google search, when I do them, often I notice that several of these candidates have died. A lot of them die from cancer when I find their obituaries, or heart attacks, often in their late 30s and early 40s. For some reason, and I don't really quite understand why, a lot of these attorneys ended up dying when they were on vacation. And it's almost as if their body needed a break from their law firms before they'd allow themselves to die. Most of these obituaries talk about the attorney's personal life and how they enjoyed spending time with their children, hiking outdoors, and other hobbies, and things that I doubt the attorney had time for while they were practicing. And how do I know this? Because many attorneys work all the time, and I also knew these attorneys. And I also noticed many of these obituaries were for attorneys who lived in New York City or another large city. And there were few attorneys in smaller markets who died early. It just seemed to be less common. One of the least understood things about working inside of a law firm is that it can age and kill you prematurely. I often run into my colleagues from when I was practicing law. Many of them have issues with their weight, teeth, and skin, and a look of stress and dread almost seems to permeate their faces. They could be making millions of dollars a year, but the stress from their jobs is palpable. They do not look healthy at all in many cases. In some cases, if I haven't seen them for a few years, I don't even recognize them. It happens often enough that it's clear to me that there's a pattern. So what are some of the factors that contribute to this? For starters, I don't believe it's healthy to sit in an office chair for thousands of hours a year with a lack of sleep and exercise. Since attorneys have very little time to do anything but work, they often eat unhealthy food. Along those same lines, it's very stressful to have your family upset and disappointed in you because they do not see you enough. And this can lead to a feeling of isolation where you bottle up your emotions, which may lead to abuse of alcohol or other substances to deal with the mental health issues caused by your work. You cannot have it all. An associate might win by getting a multi-thousand-dollar bonus for billing more hours than a colleague. A partner might win by bringing in lucrative clients for billing more hours than their peers, but this happens at the expense of your family, because if you're working long hours to provide for them financially, they are going to be unhappy with you for not spending enough time with them. You can make all the money you want, but health and family problems will be the price you pay. It's a win-lose situation. It's a life filled often with exhaustion, dread, criticism, and work that often signifies nothing. The attorneys I've known throughout the years who died young from heart attacks, cancer, and other maladies would probably still be alive had they not been so motivated, eager to please, and committed to their law firms. This may not make sense to you. If you do not prioritize what is important and not important for you, then you may find yourself living a life with little meaning, which you do not enjoy. That is, if you manage to survive very long, every day that goes by you are participating in this nonsense is one you cannot get back. There are many fun and enjoyable things out there in the world you can choose to do. All you have to do is stop giving so much of yourself to pursuits that do not make you happy. If you only try to please others and continually put forth the effort they expect of you, the odds are you will age very prematurely, and you may die quite young. The human body and mind are resilient and can bounce back from the abuse of a law office most of the time, but not always. Here's some of the ways that working in a law firm as an attorney ages you prematurely. Number one, sitting long hours is not good for attorneys, and most of them sit a lot. As an attorney, you're rewarded for how much time you sit at a desk and work. Attorneys inside of large law firms spend most of their time sitting. The more you sit, the better. You're expected to sit all the time. I was talking to an attorney with his own firm last night. He has a 50-person law firm in Orange County and was calling me at 7:30 p.m. to talk to me about doing some legal work for one of my companies. He started telling me about how everyone at his firm loves to work and how committed they are, that they're often there 7 days a week. Most of his partners and associates like what they do so much that it's not uncommon to find more than half of them there on a Friday night after 9 p.m. Think about how much time they spend sitting. Maybe they spend so much time sitting at work they can no longer stand up. Here's what the Mayo Clinic says about the dangers of sitting at your desk for a long period of time.
When you sit, you use less energy than you do when you stand or move. Research has linked sitting for long periods of time with a number of health concerns. This includes obesity and a cluster of conditions: increased blood pressure, high blood sugar, excess body fat around the waist, and abnormal cholesterol levels that make up metabolic syndrome. Too much sitting overall and prolonged periods of sitting also seem to increase the risk of death from cardiovascular disease and cancer.
This may explain why so many attorneys I know have died of heart attacks and cancer at young ages. Sitting is not good for you. The Mayo Clinic further noted that those who sat for more than 8 hours a day with no physical activity had a risk of dying similar to that posed by obesity and smoking. What attorney spends less than 8 hours a day behind a desk? It's almost a requirement for being an attorney, and very few attorneys have time to exercise. So working as an attorney is just as dangerous as being obese and smoking. I was amazed by all the studies that have been conducted about the negative effects that sitting has on your body. Number 2, lack of sleep is not good for attorneys, and many do not get enough sleep. Attorneys in New York often live with their families in the suburbs an hour or two away from the city, so they take the train a lot. Some get up at 4:30 in the morning to catch trains, and then stay at work until late at night. When you do the math, it's almost impossible for them to sleep 8 hours each night during the week. In Los Angeles and other large cities, many attorneys commute by car for hours each way. They also work long hours. While working long hours may be necessary when clients have deadlines, the long hours seem to never end. They're judged by how many hours they work. If an attorney does not work enough hours, they may lose their jobs, lose their bonus, or jeopardize their status at the firm in other ways. I have not worked in a law firm in over 2 decades. Nevertheless, I have a recurring dream that causes me to wake in terror in the middle of the night. The dream is always the same. I'm in a law firm, and days or weeks have gone by where I've not billed enough hours. I find myself walking around the law firm feeling paranoid and looking at my superiors to see if their faces betray their anger with me for not working enough hours. I'm terrified that I'm going to lose my job in these dreams. I'm sure other attorneys have had similar nightmares on an ongoing basis. Attorneys are programmed to believe that success means billing as many hours as possible, and it can never stop. The result of this is a lack of sleep, and this health risk seems less damaging than not billing enough hours. Here are some other damaging effects caused by a lack of sleep. Lack of sleep causes accidents. I once knew an attorney who flipped his car after a few all-nighters and was in the hospital for 7 weeks with a broken collarbone and other injuries. Another had a blood vessel in her eye explode after being in the office for several days without any sleep. Lack of sleep also causes serious health problems. Lack of sleep can make you prone to heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, and diabetes. Lack of sleep also increases the risk of stroke. Lack of sleep causes mental health problems. If you do not sleep enough, you may develop issues like anxiety, depression, and more. Lack of sleep can make you gain weight. People who do not sleep enough are much more likely to gain weight. In addition, lack of sleep stimulates appetite and cravings for foods that are high in fat and carbohydrates. Lack of sleep kills your sex drive. Lack of sleep ages your skin. This is one of the reasons why many of the attorneys I encounter look older than they really are. Lack of sleep can really mess with your skin and how you look. You've probably experienced sallow skin and puffy eyes after a few nights of missed sleep, but it turns out that chronic sleep loss can lead to lackluster skin, fine lines, and dark circles under the eyes. When you don't get enough sleep, your body releases more of the stress hormone cortisol. In excess amounts, cortisol can break down skin collagen, the protein that keeps skin smooth and elastic. Sleep loss also causes the body to release too little human growth hormone. When we're young, human growth hormone promotes growth. As we age, it helps increase muscle mass, thicken skin, and strengthen bones. To quote sleep expert Phil Gurman, PhD, it's during deep sleep what we call slow wave sleep, the growth hormone is released. It seems to be part of the normal tissue repair, patching the wear and tear of the day. A lack of sleep doubles your risk of death. Researchers have found that a lack of sleep doubles the risk of death from cardiovascular disease and other factors. Most attorneys experience a lack of sleep when there are deadlines. These attorneys may work for days on end. I once went into work on a Thursday morning and did not return home until Sunday morning. This sort of story is not uncommon. However, the ongoing effects of not sleeping enough are what tend to do the most damage. Number 3, not exercising enough is bad for your body, and most attorneys do not exercise enough because they simply do not have the time. Exercise is a luxury reserved for people who are not a slave to the billable hour. If an attorney is not working, they likely try to spend time with their family, or, more often than not, relieve some stress by drinking or abusing other substances. Not exercising enough can cause the following health problems:
Obesity, heart diseases, including coronary artery disease and heart attack, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, stroke, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, including colon, breast, and uterine cancers, osteoporosis and falls, and an increased feeling of depression or anxiety.
In fact, some studies find that a lack of exercise is just as bad for you as smoking. Number 4, proper diet is imperative to health, and many attorneys have very unhealthy diets. Because attorneys are often eating restaurant meals laden with sugar, salt, and carbohydrates, their diets can be very unhealthy. They often eat these meals at the office and at home. While there are multiple types of eating issues that attorneys face, a poor diet can create stress and weariness and contribute to numerous health issues, including
Obesity, tooth decay, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease and stroke, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, cancer, and depression.
Number 5, an attorney's family is often disappointed because the family feels neglected, which then creates undue stress. An attorney often misses their children's events. They're not home for dinner. They leave before their children get up in the morning. They're gone on the weekends, and they spend way more time at the office than at home. Because of this, they're unable to form a healthy, ongoing relationship with their family. The significant other often feels neglected. The attorney constantly feels guilty and conflicted because in their mind, they're doing everything possible to provide for their loved ones, but the family is never pleased. Because the family is angry and upset with them, the attorney may withdraw from their family even further and immerse themselves in more and more in their work. Marriages can become toxic. Children may experience problems in school, use drugs, or act out in other ways because they feel neglected. The problem is that if an attorney is not home enough, they are not making their family happy regardless of the money they bring in. So their family will not feel supported. This creates numerous problems for the attorney, which leads to a cycle of more stress and other issues. Number 6, the best attorneys often are not vulnerable, which leads to a lack of connection with others and more health problems. Attorneys are taught that it is bad to be vulnerable. If an attorney projects weakness at work, it's used against them. If an attorney makes their client look vulnerable, this is used against the client. Attorneys are taught, generally, not to be vulnerable or project any weakness. The problem with not being vulnerable is that you will have difficulty connecting with people. If you can't connect with others, you feel emotionally isolated. People who are unable to connect with others often feel quite depressed, stressed, and lonely. We are fundamentally social animals, and without connection, we are not ourselves. In the book Outlier, Malcolm Gladwell explains that people who live in connected communities are far less likely to experience health problems than those who are isolated. Being connected to others is necessary for mental health. It is difficult to manage stress when we don't have anyone to share our feelings with, provide us with comfort, and give us love. People who are unable to connect with others often find themselves abusing substances in order to numb their feelings or experience a connection. Many people self-medicate with substances in order to manage their negative feelings. Number 7, attorneys often drink far too much alcohol or abuse other substances. With everything we just discussed, it should be no surprise that many attorneys drink far too much alcohol and abuse other substances. Even if an attorney wanted to stop drinking or abusing substances, how on earth would they find the time to go to AA meetings and get help with their addictions? Articles regularly appear in the New York Times and other major publications about attorneys who die from substance abuse. Here's a direct quote from an article in Psychology Today.
Lawyers start facing very heavy workloads and conflicts with their value system right when they enter law school, and they may use alcohol or drugs to cope. They also suffer from disproportionately higher rates of mental health issues, which may provide access to prescription medication that could be addictive. As per a 2016 study, more than 1 in 5 lawyers reported that they felt their use of alcohol or other drugs was problematic at some point in their lives, and of these, nearly 3 of 4 reported that their problematic use started after they joined law school. For many students, the excitement of getting into law school ends when they start school. Excessive workloads and intense competition with like-minded perfectionists leads to long hours of study and creates an enormous amount of stress. Additionally, the emphasis on analysis makes many students lose their connection to their original reason for joining law school, passion for the law or helping people. Students, therefore, turn to alcohol or drugs to relieve tension and relax. In addition to creating conflicts with their own value system, the pressure at work can be excruciating. Lawyers are unique in that they are not only required to work long hours to satisfy existing clients, but also generate new business, and they find themselves constantly working in order to climb the corporate ladder and be named a partner in a law firm. This work schedule oftentimes ruptures relations at home, leaving them with no one to turn to. In such circumstances, lawyers may lean on alcohol or drugs for support.
Various studies have shown that the rate of alcohol addiction among lawyers is between 15 and 24%. This number does not take into account the rates of addiction to other substances and use of drugs like OxyContin, Ritalin, crystal meth, cocaine, heroin, Valium, and other substances that lawyers use to cope. Without getting too much into it, abusing alcohol alone can lead to numerous health problems. Alcohol abuse is so dangerous that it's the 4th leading preventable cause of death in the United States. Accidents and other issues are common with alcohol abuse. On top of this, alcohol and other substances can cause issues for the attorney at work when they're recovering the next day because their productivity may be severely reduced, which makes the cycle of abuse even worse. By the time they were in their late 30s and early 40s, I knew of several attorneys who had gotten cancer, one who received a liver transplant, and a few others who died of heart attacks. These attorneys drank just about every night and probably could not have gotten to sleep without alcohol. The stress of being an attorney is not normal, and it causes attorneys to use far more substances than the general population. Number 8, law firm billing practices may encourage attorneys to be dishonest. When I was practicing law, I saw many instances of partners, associates, and others padding their time and overbilling. I knew of a few attorneys who never wrote down their time and then just estimated at the end of the week when they turned in their hours. One day I walked by a senior associate's office to get an assignment, and I sat there while he listened to a series of at least 15 voicemails. "What are you doing?" I asked him. "I'm reconstructing my hours," he told me. "I never just write them down and just estimate them at the end of the month. It works out great. I also add a few hours here and there for the time I spend thinking about matters while I'm driving to work, when I'm going to sleep, and more." One associate I knew worked an entire weekend on a brief. He went by a partner's office on Monday morning to show it to the partner and saw the partner's timesheet. The timesheet showed the partner had spent 20 hours reviewing and revising the associate's brief over the weekend. This would be great, but the associate was showing the partner the brief for the first time. That means the partner was stealing at least $20,000 from the client. When I used to clerk for a federal judge, I saw people sentenced to 15 years in prison for holding up a bank with a note and running away with $1,200 in cash that was later recovered. Something is wrong here. I'm not saying the entire profession is dishonest, but I would estimate that more than half of the attorneys I know have padded hours and engaged in dishonest billing practices. The problem with dishonesty is that it has a negative influence on people. People who are dishonest are likely to suffer more health problems than those who do not. Inevitably, attorneys who are lying and being dishonest on a regular basis experience additional health issues. Number 9, attorneys suffer mental health issues far more often than the general population. Not only is substance abuse an issue for many attorneys experience mental health issues as well. Nearly 60% of attorneys with substance abuse issues are likely to have mental health issues. Incredibly, nearly 40% of law students and criminal litigation attorneys suffer from depression. In terms of law students, about 32% have major depression, 13.4% have anxiety disorders, and 14.6% have bipolar disorders. Here are some findings from a study of 12,825 attorneys carried out by Hazelton and reported in the Journal of Addiction Medicine.
Levels of depression, anxiety, and stress among attorneys were significant, with 28%, 19%, and 23% experiencing symptoms of depression, anxiety, and stress, respectively. The same study found that lawyers are 3.6 times as likely to be depressed as people in other jobs.
I've known numerous attorneys with mental health issues. One attorney I know started imagining that he was a tycoon, and in his free time created all these fake websites that profiled him as an industrialist with huge companies all over the world. His need to feel important was not fulfilled in his office environment. I've seen this sort of thing from numerous attorneys. They disassociate and have trouble coming to terms with reality. Their psychological issues often revolve around a need to feel important that they do not get from their office. They have delusions of grandeur since they don't feel successful at work. Is it any surprise that attorneys face numerous mental health issues? In many law firms, an attorney is often yelled at and criticized and put down by clients, superiors, judges, and others, constantly afraid of superiors' disapproval or negative reactions to their work, required to put in excessive face time at the office, late at night, on weekends, holidays, and more, so they feel like a prisoner. They're often sleep deprived. They're required to do meaningless work that must be perfect, or the world will end. They're undermined by their own colleagues inside the firm looking for an advantage. They're under threat of losing their job unless they're able to consistently bring in business. They're required to cover their ass all the time for their work product, hours, and more. They're part of a system where they're often forced to be dishonest on a daily basis and overbill their time, which weighs them down emotionally. They're worried their spouse has dissatisfied them and may be cheating on them or scheming to divorce them because they cannot spend enough time with their family, even though they provide a nice house and cars and so forth and support their family. And throughout all of this, they're required to constantly maintain a professional disposition. Number 10, attorneys may suffer all sorts of maladies due to a lack of sun. Attorneys spend most of their time indoors under fluorescent lights and then emerge at night. Due to this, it is not uncommon for attorneys to suffer from an astonishing lack of sunlight. Lack of sunlight has been linked to all sorts of maladies.
Men who do not get enough sun and vitamin D are twice as likely to develop heart disease. A deficiency of sunlight can lead to a vitamin D deficiency, which can cause breast cancer, prostate cancer, loss of memory, and can increase the risk of developing schizophrenia and dementia. Lack of sunlight can negatively impact metabolism, causing weight gain. It can also cause depression, mood swings, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts.
So in conclusion, being an attorney is extremely difficult and something that is likely to age and kill many attorneys prematurely. Everywhere the attorney turns, they are assaulted by forces likely to cause premature aging, create health problems, and more. The job can be exhausting and cruel to not only the mind of the attorney, but their body as well. So if you choose to pursue a career as an attorney, make sure it's truly something that makes you happy. And please remember to take care of your body and mind as much as possible.